Okay, so now we are approaching the closing panel discussion, so I would like to ask Emilia and Hanna already there, and then Ilkka and Anu. Okay, so it's up to you how to decide. Oh, and I need to invite myself as well. and Mark obviously is
Yeah, Harry, where are you going to go?
Okay, I'll be here. Yeah. And big hand also for the Allergiatalo. Very good facility, and technology actually works, which is really great. Thank you.
Okay, over to me, right? We've only got half an hour left, so we're going to make this really punchy, fast-moving and exciting. It's going to be kind of an AMA, Ask Me Anything format, except don't ask me, I'm the moderator, I'm not going to answer any questions. We only have one introduction because you don't need to introduce yourself a little bit maybe, but everyone else has given a presentation, so I just want to start off with yourself to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello everyone, I'm Ilkka Taponen. My history is from insects for food and feed industry. I was there, did my thesis on supply chain management, but now recently for 2.5 years been working with meat replacements at Golden Green Foods, doing pulled oats.
Okay. I actually had an Impossible Burger at Cornell University campus the other day. You know about that? So it's I think it's this kind of hemoglobin thing to make the redness, which is that they actually brand it as GMO, or they don't brand it, but they don't make a secret of it, and they in fact sell it on that. So they're all part of the kind of pro-GMO scene in that sort of way. And I asked the server how they were selling, and they were selling really well, just to regular students. So. And I think that's entirely plant-based, actually. I don't think there's any actual meat stuff in there. Harry, do you want to just quickly introduce your own work?
Actually I'm here as a panelist, as a member of Ecomodernist Society, and obviously my working life, I'm nowadays working in the artificial intelligence or machine learning. So that's my line of business, trying to actually accelerate the pace of what we are doing, the plans and so forth. So.
Okay, so you've got a huge amount of expertise here on the panel. Let's hear some hands up. No, fine. Okay, who wants to start things off?
Come on. Good chance.
Yeah.
What do you think is the area where we can have most success in reducing the burden on the environment in farming in the next decade?
Okay, do you want to address that to anyone in particular, or shall we just try and see how it goes?
If anybody has any ideas, I'm interested in different suggestions.
All right, who wants to start on that one? Anna?
Do you mean only farming, or can we also consider the dietary chains?
Well, that's a good question. I was more thinking about the farming part. I think that if in case you have some ideas for the dietary change, then it would be how.
Yeah, exactly. But because if we could reduce the amount of livestock products that we consume, and then that would release more land from agriculture for other uses. So then we could use farming practices and also think about the land use in general, like if we should would back some of the land from agriculture to forests, yeah. That would fix much more carbon. And also in Finland, most of it's something like over 50% of the agricultural carbon emissions come from the organic soils, these peat soils, yeah. That are in production. So then at least those ones, we should put back to forests. But then also the soil in general has huge carbon stocks. So then all sorts of farming practices that would increase the carbon in the soil would help as well. And that's. So you have to talk about grass because that is one of the.
I want to ask you. Do you think veganism is a good idea? You work in the milk sector, so just give us your thoughts on that as well.
But first, I want to comment on this. Your very good question. I think we have a lot of opportunities to do also in the traditional agriculture. As I was presenting in my presentation, that there are a lot of opportunities to increase the carbon sink in grassland soil. And Finland is grassland mostly, I mean the agriculture. Of course, we have peat soils, as you said, and organic soils, which are a different thing, but we have a lot of opportunities to increase the carbon sink in the soil. And we need to put a lot of resources on the research, how we can do that, this carbon sequestration. But there is, of course, some need for the change in the agricultural practices to do that. The other thing is that we need to, let's say, go for a circular economy. We need to circulate our nutrients and also make use of the side strains, I mean the energy, like manure and so on. So we have a lot of what we can improve to make our agricultural business more climate efficient.
Okay, and the vegan thing?
Well, listening to you all guys, I think it came in my mind that we cowboys are not needed in the future at all. But thinking about the nature and let's say the biodiversity of the landscape, I think we need grassland, we need animals. But of course, this is an ethical thing. If somebody really wants to be a vegan, it's not a problem, I think.
Not a problem. There we are. See if we can do better than that. Harry.
Yeah. Coming back to this original question that what will break through in 10 years or so. Obviously, I'm totally biased here, but I strongly believe that the digital stuff is going to break through for a couple of reasons. So that first is that there is not that much convincing to do. I mean, trusting that the wide general public will change their behaviors or something like that. It's a much smaller audience that needs to be convinced on the farming practices. The other thing is that we see a lot of investment going into the agriculture and especially agriculture technologies. That is one of the reasons why we are working there. And at the same time, we see a lot of improvement in machine learning and data-based anything from satellites to microbes. It's a wonderful spectrum of data that is available, and we are now starting to actually understand that what all we can do with that. And that goes not only with well-being developed countries, but also in sub-Saharan Africa, small-holding farms that have only like half an hectare or something like that can benefit actually from the digital technologies. And that's really important since 55% of the world energy or food is produced by the small-holding farmers. There are half a billion of them. So I strongly believe that the digital is at least partial solutions within 5 to 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Just a question for you. How do you see this difference? Because as an example, we talk about in other industries, we talk about energy and all this. And we talk about here in Finland to install the 5th glass on our window. At the same time, we are countries, we should add the 1st glass or the 1st window on there to use an energy in their homes. How you see this on this, what we are talking today about the food production? Because we have all the technology, we have all the digitalization, we have all you clever people here. They don't have anything. What is the real difference, what we can do and how we can help them?
Who's they?
Third countries, those countries who do not have all your clever people and all this technology available.
They've got clever people, but maybe not the technology. I mean, yeah. So we're talking about yield gaps in sub-Saharan Africa, perhaps? Anyone know?
Yeah. Well, maybe I can say something to that. So even though here, let's say in Finland, we are few people compared globally, but we are consuming so much more than, let's say, 10 sub-Saharan African people. So then we have more responsibility to reduce our emissions and our footprint on the plants, and also the development of technology is in all sectors very fast and even catching more pace all the time. So for less developed countries can leapfrog to the modern technology and away from the not so efficient options that we are now today using in the Western world.
Okay. Yeah. Then we'll come to you.
I think I would very much agree that because, as you said, we have the know-how and we have the technology. We need to let's say show the road, show the path where the globe should go. I think that's our responsibility, as you said, and of course, bearing in our minds that the food production systems must be adapted on the local, let's say, circumstances and the climate. The same solutions developed here in Finland cannot perhaps fit in other places in the planet. But anyhow, I totally agree your points.
Okay.
Yeah, I was also thinking the same, and what I was presenting about is that they're producing the biomass by solar power and so on. I think it's not the potential really for Finland. It doesn't make any sense. But where is the sun and where are the conditions? So I think there is a lot of potential with the new technologies, and they are not. Then there is of course the artificial intelligence and designing all the new foods, but they don't care. They need the energy and the nutrients, and if we can provide simple solutions for that, so I think there are a lot of opportunities also for these developing countries or crisis areas.
Okay. Anna, and then Harry, and then
Yeah, and then of course, like at the moment, most of the hunger problems in the developing countries, they are not really due to the fact that they don't have access to the technologies, but a lot of the problems are because of political reasons or that they don't have access to the food for other reasons, and also like just very low-tech solutions in the farming can improve the crop yields, and then like better crop rotations, using nitrogen fixing crops in the rotations, and getting more nutrients into the soil. So then, but then of course in the future, like if first of all we manage to benefit substantially of these new technologies, then of course there is always these technology transfer programs, and we researchers, we all the time doing research in the developing countries and trying to help the situation there as well.
yeah, Harry.
Yeah, so I'm not a trained scientist by any means. I'm a political scientist and philosopher in that sense that one of the best things we can do is not to export our own ideological beliefs to the third world or the developing countries, as mentioned earlier in the Mark's presentation. So that it's dangerous and inhumane that we and our prejudices and myths are now preventing people from eating rice that they don't get blind or something like that. So everybody knows that educating women and girls in the developing countries is one of the fastest and most less harmful ways of. But what we're gonna educate for them or to them, we need to be really careful not to replicate our own mythical misbeliefs.
Yeah, I was in Tanzania a few months ago, and I met this farmer who really had nothing. I mean, the kids were visibly very hungry, and I was in my kind of GMO frame of mind, so I was sort of saying, what would be the most useful thing for you? You know, intending for him to say drought-tolerant seeds, which are made by genetic engineering. He said irrigation. Okay. And I go, okay, yeah, right. So whatever is in my mind isn't necessarily what people will find most useful in their own situation. Yeah, gentleman there.
Yeah, mine's more on the kind of consumer side, really. I used to be vegan in the 90s. I think everyone was like a vegetarian or vegan in the 90s at some point. But I've seen in the last couple of years, at least the last 5 years, there's been a huge rebirth of veganism and vegetarianism and flexitarianism and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's a good thing. But I just want to ask, like, the panel, maybe especially you, Har, as well, or people who work in the meat and dairy business. do we think that's like a continuous trend that's going to continue to? I mean, digitalization's also got a huge part of that because people are now self-aware of their own kind of like body and how that works with all the devices and the Fitbits and stuff. So do we see that trend going up, or do we? Because if it is going up and it's not going to come back down, and I think that also that's where the money comes from, right? The consumer keeps this food system alive at the end of the day. So what do we feel there? What's going to happen on the consumer front?
Yeah, I think we've seen this trend in increased veganism perhaps, but as far as I understand, it hasn't fed into any actual decline, visible decline on meat or dairy consumption.
That's true. That's true. I think it's. I'm not a specialist on that side, but it is quite evident that it's going to increase flexing at least, as you said. But I think there are a lot of, let's say, for example, the dairy chain in Finland. There are a lot of misunderstanding how sustainable the system is, because it's developed here in Finland and it's based on grass and not on maize and soy and so that kind of thing. So and as I said, it is quite possible that we can improve the for example climate efficiency of our system a lot compared to where we are now. And we see in for example in our company that we globally we certainly need to increase, as I said in my presentation, we certainly need to go more for vegetarian diet. But there are, of course, we see that there are still quite a lot of space for like kind of grassland-based food production.
Okay. Anyone else on this point?
Yeah, but I'm not a vegan or not even a vegetarian, but to me it was a great revelation. So when I understood that reducing, just giving up beef, or actually drastically reducing eating beef, or if I eat beef, I try to eat beef that is sustainably developed and so forth. So that is one of the things that one thing that I don't understand in the environmental discussions, that people tend to be like the binary decisions. I'm 100% vegan and everyone else is a terrorist or something like that. But if you are not vegan, you are a bad person or something like that. But simply making choices that are like microscopic in my own life, there is absolutely no necessity for me or our family to eat beef on a regular basis. Maybe it's the feast or something like that when we have that or something like that. But simply giving beef and lamb or reducing them drastically would have a huge impact.
And it's also, the thing is, all these things are very complicated and it's very location specific. So you may defend grassland-fed beef here in Finland, but actually extensive grazing beef is much worse than confined animal beef on a when it's looked at generally. So then you get a trade-off with the animal welfare and greenhouse gas emissions. Do you want
yeah, but then it depends on if you take into account the carbon storage in the pasture lands, like those permanent pasture lands, like they store lots of carbon. And in these figures also that I was showing, that's not taken into account. But of course, because it's a stock, it's difficult to take into account when you are looking at the emissions per year or during the production, because it's but then if you would convert this land to arable land, then lots of the carbon would be released back to the air. And of course always you cannot.
You're making my point though about how damn complicated it is.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
How impossible it is for consumers to make sort of ethical decisions on when they're shopping. You first and then we'll come over to you.
I come from France, and there I always, or most of the time, buy in local and plastic-free grocery or farmer market. Here I was a bit disappointed that I don't find such places, and a lot of food comes from outside of Finland. So it really depends on oil price, and the oil price will continue to rise. So how do you think the food supply will be for Finland in the future? do you think it will be more local because of the oil price rising, or how do you think the future will be?
What makes you think the oil price will continue to rise?
Because it's physical reasons.
Okay, all right.
We have a certain amount of oil in the earth, and so
Yeah, people said that 10 years ago when we had the peak oil thing, and then they discovered shale oil, and now the price went right down. So the assumptions behind these kinds of things are always very questionable. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but do you think that we're going to see a trend towards more local food in Finland, obviously, or even in equivalent countries?
Yeah. I think you made the first point of maybe being worried about the environmental impact of importing far away or packing in plastic. Well, the packing only comes up maybe 1 or 2% of the whole environmental impact, especially on meat.
And how much is transport?
I would say another couple of percentages.
So it's pretty tiny compared to the overall
yes.
impact.
So if you take meat, then you just can have the plastic on with it, whatever. But localization for sure is another trend and a place where the insects have been presented as one option. And I would also say that insects would not be a major player as a protein source, but something that could help us recycle nutrients locally. To be a very large and efficient insect farm, I don't see that happening. But to locally on a restaurant in a small community, you could recycle biomass and use insects for that. And we have vertical farming, another example of what you can do in urban areas. So yes, I would say.
Okay. Anyone else on the local food point? Harry?
Yeah, so here again I'm biased a bit, but one thing I would like to point out is that the tremendous polarity of the discussions, what we read in the newspapers all the time, that on the other hand there is a camp that wants to take down all of the subsidies and end the whole agriculture thing in Finland, which would be insanity if you ask me. And then there are a lot of people who will think that only the way that we have been always done will save us and so forth. And there seems to be no kind of a reasonable middle way in the discussions, that it's so polarized that the thing is that European Union is now renewing the common agriculture policy within 3 years or so. And that's almost like renationalizing the agriculture policy and subsidies. And so it's pretty much up to Finland to decide now that what we want to do with the agriculture, in that sense, that what are the reasonable things to do here in Finland and what is not reasonable to do in Finland. And truly have that kind of civilized, rational debate about that what we should be doing with the agriculture and the clean environment what we have. And the thing is that Seinäjoki and up farther north, there will be in 15 years there will be similar conditions like there is now in Denmark. So things gonna change radically if the prognoses are correct. So it would be insanity to kill agriculture at the moment.
Maybe if you have properly local production, you could go back to the 19th century and eat tree bark during the famine.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I don't have any nostalgia with my grandparents because they were starving and so forth. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with the welfare state. But yes, so
again, a very tricky question and a complicated question, as you earlier mentioned. We are living in an open market. You have to remember that, and the market is practically it is global. Of course, we have the EU market and we have a global market. For example, dairy. We are producing dairy products pretty much the same amount we are consuming today. It's quite balanced. But anyhow, still we have export and import about a third of our production.
Of the same product?
No, I mean total dairy products. 1/3 is imported and 1/3 is exported. Well, compared to our production or consumption, which is quite balanced. So we are living in the open global market, and I would say that we always will have export and import.
But to address his point, you're exporting, let's just say, you're exporting 500 million tons of butter, and you're importing 500 million tons of butter. Why does that make any sense for the market to even do that?
That's why I said this is a very tricky question.
That's the answer.
But you are right. It's quite silly. It sounds silly, and it is silly. But anyhow, this is the how the market is functioning.
Okay. Did you still have a question there?
Well, I have
and then we'll
comment that we don't have to think that it's so easy to change the habits, how people eat. There was one study about India where the result was that 2/3 are eating meat, and comment was that 3,000 years of Hinduism wasn't enough.
We have time for one question.
Yeah. Okay. Please.
Yeah, my last question is the last one. It's like, what do you see is the next big change in this global food chain? What we are discussing today, and what should happen? Like, what is in your mind the next big step to change?
Next big step: carbon neutral milk, cultured meat, microbial, whatever, AI, and insects. Yeah.
It's complicated.
Very good. Very good.
Maybe a comment.
Oh, right. You actually want to say something? Okay.
Yeah. I think that the science is there. We pretty much understand what needs to happen. We have the technologies available. Like Eska pointed out, that is there anything new? No, there isn't. We know all of the solutions. We know how to do it. We would be able to do it. There's plenty of money and capital around, but still somehow we are not able to implement the things that are necessary. This has to change.
Right, you've got 20 seconds each. We're going to go along the line. These are your final thoughts. Yeah, Emilia.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, that because now there is there are still the sensory issues with the plant-based foods. There are the minced meat next to the plant-based, these pulled oats and everything, and the consumer has still the possibility to select the one she or he wants. So there is still at least in the Western countries, it's no go unless we solve the food needs to be appealing and bring well-being to the people. I think it's part of our culture. It's not just we eat pills and that's it. So I think we still have the choice to select what we eat.
Okay, thanks, Hannah.
Yeah, the challenges are huge. The climate change, population growth, and everything. So I see that we really need to develop these new technologies that are based on closed systems. They consume lots of energy. We have to somehow find a way how we produce all of the energy for that, but we need to make it sustainable. And maybe at some point, like we are in the point that we have to reduce the requirements for the quality and taste of the food, and then just to eat something. So then we need to accept these proteins that are produced in bioreactors or something like that.
Yeah, maybe we can produce wood with your devices and then burn it.
Right, in a sauna. My pitch was, so you remember carbon offsets? My pitch was for vegan offsets, where I persuade someone else to be vegan and I pay them for that, so I can continue to eat beef once a week. Okay, is that no bad idea? Okay.
We need concrete actions, not just to speak. We are executing our cardboard program and showing road to other players on the market.
Thank you. Finally?
Yeah, I would say that today we are eating more diverse diet than ever, and this will continue, and this is a positive thing. But we must reduce animal-based foods, no matter which way they are done. And hopefully then we can also get the help from cell culture to get off.
Insects are animals, right?
They are part animals and brings more the diversity, but that's a positive thing, and then it's up to us to be more sustainable.
That's great. Well, thank you. Can we just say a big round of applause? Say thank you to all the panelists.
So, thank you, Mark. Do you want to have some closing words? Otherwise, they will be mine. So,
No, you have the closing word.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, audience. You have been a lovely audience, and please remember the right thing to do is join Ecomodernist movement, and remember what stayed in the jar of Pandora. It was hope, and after these presentations, I'm totally convinced that we're gonna tackle those challenges what we faced in the food system. Thank you all.